new INYAS members and old members also. So today we have gathered here not merely as individuals, but as torch bearers of curiosity, seekers of truth, and champions of progress. Our shared passion for science unites us in purpose and propels us towards a future where innovation knows no boundaries. So, welcome to 9th Annual General Body Meeting of INYAS. And this year is very important as we are also celebrating 10th year it's a start for 10th year celebration. So together we can forge pathways to a brighter tomorrow. So myself, Kiran Bala, I am current core committee member of INYAS and professor at Biosciences and Biomedical Engineering Department, IIT Indore. I am truly honored to moderate this inaugural session. First of all, let us warmly welcome our respected chief guest, Professor Ashutosh Sharma. So I request Sir to please come on the and have a seat on dais. Then we also have other dignitaries, Executive Director Dr. Brijesh Pandey. Then we also have Deputy Executive Director Finance and Administration, Shri Sunil, and Dr. Seema, who is Assistant Executive Director, Science and Society. So before starting formally, I invite Professor Ashutosh Sharma, who is President INSA, then our Chair INYAS, Dr. Rajan Dhaka, our Secretary and Dr. Pandey, who is Executive Director of INSA. Our Secretary, Dr. Veda Krishnan. Okay. Yeah, please. Thank you so much for joining us. So let me briefly introduce INYAS. Established in 2014, Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, it stands India's pioneer and only recognized Academy of Young Scientists. Its overarching goal is to advance science, education, and cultivate networking opportunities amongst India's emerging scientific community, as well as yielding scientific temperament across India. From its inception, INYAS has remained highly proactive in its endeavors to propagate scientific knowledge across all layers of society by employing platforms such as science camps, remote area lectures, conferences, awareness and skill development workshops, and also many more other outreach activities to fulfill its mission. As we warmly welcome our chief guest and other dignitaries, we extend our sincerest gratitude for gracing us with your presence, a token of our admiration for your esteemed contributions. Your presence honors us, and we are deeply grateful for your invaluable support and guidance. So, with no further ado, let us inaugurate this 9th annual GBM. So, for the inauguration and let's lighten the lamp, I cordially invite our chief guest and other dignitaries to grace the stage with ceremonial lighting of lamp, which symbolizes the dispelling of darkness and the victory of knowledge over ignorance. May each flicker ignite inspiration and guide us on a path of enlightenment and prosperity.
शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्प्रदाय शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशय दीपज्योति नमोऽस्तु ते। शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्प्रदाय शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशय दीपज्योति नमोऽस्तु ते। शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं।
Thank you so much, everyone. So I now invite our chair, Dr. Rajendra Singh Dhaka, to formally introduce chief guest and also welcome Professor Ashutosh Sharma and Dr. Brijesh Pandey. So felicitation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. We all are excited. We all are young scientists, as long as he is not listening us. Otherwise, Professor Ashutosh Sharma will say, I am young and you are younger. So, on behalf of Indian National Younger Academy of Science, I have modified this word younger whenever Professor Ashutosh Sharma is there. I don't say young, I say younger. So, on behalf of INYAS, I welcome all of you to this 9th annual GBM. It is our great pleasure for all of us to have Professor Ashutosh Sharma with us. He is currently INSA president, as we all know, and we all are grateful to him for his valuable time to grace this particular occasion of inaugural session of our 9th GBM. And as Kiran already mentioned, that this particular GBM is special for all of us, that we all INYAS has entered in its 10th year. We already started celebrating 10th year as a special year by reaching out at the larger scale at every corner of the country, doing outreach activities and also in different languages. Of course, I would not take much time because this session is mainly for our chief guest. And then next 2 days or so, we are going to discuss many things which are related to INYAS. But I must say that we have now, including 2019 and 2024, we have 130 plus members, and I also particularly welcome all newly selected members, since for them it is the first GBM. And anyway, as Professor Ashutosh Sharma said that you are already outgoing, so anyway I am outgoing, but I have a great hope from all my younger colleagues that in next couple of years, even the INYAS will go to the next level. And more importantly, as I always keep saying, some of the new members might have read some of the strange sentences in my email, but those are very important in the sense that working together will always give you new ideas, and that brings new initiatives, and with all working together will make the difference. Any particular person or individual, I think, cannot make a great impact, but working all together will make a great impact. And if we can reach out, the best part of INYAS is that we have friends from all our streams of sciences and from all the parts of the country, from all the institutes, starting from research labs, IITs, ISAs, universities, central, state, and private, government, all organizations. We are here and we make friends. And I always keep saying that, see, before coming to INYAS, I was having friends mostly from the physical sciences stream. But INYAS provided me this platform to have friends from other streams and provided me this opportunity to contribute back to the society. And not only me, INYAS provided this opportunity to all of us, and I am sure that we are making the difference, we are making the impact, and we will make the impact at the greater scale in coming years. So we will not take much time because we know that about INYAS, and for new members we have made a special video to release today on the occasion of this 9th GBM and 10th year celebration. So I would like to request Professor Ashutosh Sharma to release that video, and this video will tell so many things about INYAS.
I clicked. Go ahead.
Start.
See, I didn't even click. It still works.
Indian National Young Academy of Science, INYAS, is the first and only recognized Young Scientist Academy of India. INYAS was founded by the Indian National Science Academy, INSA, Council in December 2014 with a vision to promote science education and networking amongst young scientists at national as well as international level.
I had a dream for a young Academy of India. I had spoken to Professor Gadakar about it. When Professor Raghavendra Gadakar became the president of INSA, he set up a 3-member committee to come up with a proposal. We proposed the foundation of INYAS, Indian National Young Academy of Science. In December 2014, the council sanctioned INYAS, and then they put out a call for the INSA Young Scientist recipients below 40 years to apply. Then, one fine day in May, 20 of us received an email saying that we had been selected as the founding members of INYAS. We were served INYAS on a platter, 20 people who had never heard of each other, who had never met. And then finally, one day in June, we met at INSA, and INYAS started walking the journey which has now covered 10 years.
Currently, INYAS has a total of 107 members, having representation from various states. The diverse pool of members are from several national institutions, research laboratories, and universities. INYAS is committed to local outreach through its 10 local zones. These zones also liaison with INSA local chapters, other science academy chapters, and local NGOs to initiate new activities and exponentially increase the impact on ground through science camps, remote area lectures, conferences, and other forms of outreach.
I am Mahesh Kumar, one of the founding members and former chair of INYAS. INYAS' vision is to connect countries, young scientists, and to contribute to the national scientific growth. INYAS also motivates young students towards science and engineering through outreach activities.
INYAS has its flagship activities targeting early career researchers, postdoctorates, women scientists, and rural area students. Prayojan. Prayojan represents post-PhD, research, academia, industry opportunities, science journalism, grant writing, and networking. The event is targeted at postdoctoral and early career researchers to provide awareness about career opportunities post-PhD in academic, industrial, academic publishing, and science communication domains.
In 2 days, knowledge transfer to the young students.
Wisdom. Wisdom is an initiative that represents women in scientific domains. This flagship program of INYAS aims to involve and discuss key aspects to empower female students and early career scientists, researchers, as well as academicians. It is also a part of the International Women and Girls Science Day. Rural Science Education Training Utility Program. This program targets science teachers by giving them exposure to the field of latest research and developments. As schools are the base to develop and give exposure to the field of STEM, especially teachers have a critical role to play as they are the mentors for students. It is thus essential to keep teachers updated in the terms of their knowledge bases as well as motivated to identify the potential in students and inspire them to uptake the field of science.
One of the main objectives of INYAS was to initiate and foster the research collaboration among the young researchers for solving the grand challenge problems together. Organizing National Frontier of Science NatForce meeting with the help of the Principal Scientific Advisor Office was one such initiative INYAS has taken in 2018. Another initiative we have taken in this direction was to start the media meetings in 2020 with themed symposiums. These initiatives provided unique opportunities to exchange the ideas freely, learn and gain insights from the different subjects, and update yourself to enhance the research and impact.
INYAS has been conducting annual mid-year meetings in the form of technical symposiums to bring together a dynamic mix of young researchers, esteemed academics, industry experts and professionals from various fields. Through these platforms, young scientists and engineers discuss, deliberate, collaborate, and simultaneously learn about research at the cutting edge of other scientific disciplines. NatForce, National Frontiers of Science, is a series of brainstorming sessions organized by INYAS, started in 2018, with support from Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, in order to create a healthy dialogue between various disciplines of science. Under the umbrella of G20, Y20 and S20, INYAS has participated in various national level events organized by different institutions.
INYAS is celebrating its 10th year of establishment, and on this occasion, I would like to highlight that INYAS is also well recognized at the international platform. For example, INYAS became member of the International Science Council in 2023. Many of INYAS members are selected as member of the Global Young Academy, and we also collaborate with many national young academies of different countries.
INYAS is also recognized by the International Science Council. It has international connections with the Global Young Academy and national academies of several countries. INYAS, along with GYA and 29 national international young academies, signed the International Year of Basic Science for Sustainable Development statement. It has collaborated with national academies of India, South Africa, and Nepal in a groundbreaking consortium under the umbrella of Inter-Academy Partnership (IAP) to empower science players in diplomacy. To improve ethics in science and curb predatory publishing, Rescue, it has collaborated with consortium among India, Bangladesh, Benin, and Czech Republic. INYAS has also been at the forefront of addressing critical issues in the realm of science and education through its insightful white papers. INYAS team has taken initiative to work on several white papers on survey-based responses and further assessments. The need for scientific innovations arises from challenges faced by the society at large. However, it is often seen that dissipation of such knowledge to the population is laced with challenges like dearth of appropriate platforms, lack of proper connect with audience, and excessive use of scientific jargon. Saransh is an attempt to bridge the gap between the budding scientists and the community at large.
Today I am going to tell about my work, tracking of oil spills along the coast of India.
INYAS National Awards for Research Excellence are awards constituted by individual contributions from INYAS members, alumni, or industry, and give the opportunity to students to showcase their research potential. To encourage the creativity of students and researchers by presenting their scientific findings through a scientific and artistic image, Indian National Young Academy of Science organizes an international Sci-Art image competition for research scholars.
INYAS is entering its 10th year of existence. I so recall the year that this was seeded around 2014, starting 2015. It's done a great job. Now, see, every club, every academy needs to have a balance between two things, experience and energy. INYAS has been providing a lot of energy. Its membership and its leadership both have been very committed to the cause for which INYAS was set up, and it has been serving well the concerns of society by training, for example, teachers, by reaching out to women, solving their problems, addressing issues by training. It's also looking at the local problems in a whole lot of areas across the nation and providing local scientific solutions for it. So there is a lot of activities which are going on. I want to congratulate all the members of INYAS who are assembled here today, as well as elsewhere, that this is a very precious club, if you would, that needs to be taken forward with a lot of optimism, positivity, energy, and even gaining experience in that process. Another thing I like about INYAS is that it's made up of very diverse membership. It's not only about people who write more papers. Of course, that's a very important activity. We need to write more papers in the journals and so on. We need to write relevant papers. We need to do research with direction that addresses problems of our citizens and our nation. INYAS members are doing all of that, but they're doing something more. They're doing something more because it's very diverse. Some of them are connected with the industry, some of them are connected with the government, some of them connected with the startup movement and NGOs. So that brings in diversity and inclusion. And I'm so happy that different perspectives are working here together. And I haven't any doubt that the next 10 years are going to be even more significant than the last 9 years. I know that this is so, and I wish them all the very best going forward in that direction. Thank you.
Through a decade of dedication, collaboration, and relentless pursuit of scientific excellence, INYAS stands as a beacon of inspiration and innovation, nurturing the brightest minds of tomorrow.
So let's thank Pooja, who is behind making this video. So she made my life easy, because otherwise I used to tell all these details in these remarks. So thank you, Pooja, for making this very nice video, and I think this is very useful for all of the new members, all of us. And in fact, we are going to release this, put this on our INYAS YouTube channel. I don't know how many the new members know about INYAS YouTube channel, and that way we will even reach out to the larger community to spread these words that what we are doing, what we are contributing, and so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajan, for all the information about INYAS and such a warm welcome. Now, I would like to request Dr. Brajesh Pandey to please give some suggestions, remarks about INYAS, our activities, and because we get all the time lots of support from him.
Good afternoon. I first welcome all the new members of INYAS in INSA campus and in INSA family. All the old members, those who are doing wonders, congratulations to them. And I just state one story. When Rajan Dhaka came to me when I joined 26 June 2023, he came and he said, lot of हमारे बहुत सारे बिल आपके पास अटके पड़े रहते हैं, पैसा नहीं जाता यहाँ से, कैसे हम लोग करेंगे, पैसा है। हमने कहा कि आज के बाद आपका हर बिल एक वीक के अंदर जो भी लीगल बिल है वो एक वीक के अंदर आपके जिन लोगों ने खर्च किया है उनके अकाउंट में चला जाएगा। एंड आई होप इट इज हैपनिंग आफ्टर दैट, सी इट इज गोइंग ऑन टाइम, it is going on time. So we at INSA are dedicated and committed to help all the INYAS activity but that activity also have INSA mentioned, and the presence of INSA should also be there. You people are doing that, as sir said, energetic. This is the energetic arm, or I can say energetic organization of INSA. And because of your work, in each and every hour, what is called uh, issue, that is a 3 month we are having the INSA, what's called newsletter. Lot of activities is filled with the INYAS activity, that is lot of pages is filled with INYAS activity. And I hope this will continue after in the 10th year and 11th year. And Rajendra said that there is a lot of more activities are going to happen in this year. So INSA is there to help. We hope that in all of your activity, all of your program, the banner of INSA and presence of INSA will much more pronounced than as it was pronounced, and we will consider that is all these activities going under the INSA banner. Okay, so I hope we will have more collaborative work in the next this 10th year and 11th year and so on, and we will have more visibility of INSA in Indian calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, and we always look forward to your support, because financial matters and all, we sometimes we are helpless, and we always look forward to your support. So let's go to inaugural talk, and before that I would like to invite our chair, Dr. Dhaka, to felicitate our chief guest, Professor Ashutosh Sharma. Thank you so much, Dr. Dhaka. And now I request you to formally introduce our chief guest.
Okay, so it's my great pleasure to introduce our chief guest, though he really does not need any introduction in the scientific community and in fact in the society in India. For the new members and all, Professor Ashutosh Sharma is a visionary academician who has made many exceptional interdisciplinary contributions in nanoscience and nanotechnology fields. From 2015 to 2021, he served as the Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is currently Institute Chair Professor and Founding Coordinator of DST Thematic Unit of Excellence on Soft Nanofabrication and Chairman of Center of Environmental Science and Engineering at IIT Kanpur since 2006. Professor Sharma has received many national and international recognitions, including Infosys Prize in Engineering and Computer Science, the highest award in India in science, Shanti Saurav Bhatnagar Award in Engineering Science, and many more in the line. He has been a fellow, elected fellow of all science academies in India and also Engineering Academy, INA of India. And as we all know that last year in 2023, he got elected as INSA president. And for INYAS, I would say that he is a great motivation and encouragement for all of us in all the activities what we are doing. And in fact, the guidance and the suggestions that we get from him are exceptionally good and motivating all of us and giving energy to all of us. And on behalf of INYAS, I'm again welcoming him, and I'm grateful to him for his valuable time, though he has to travel in the evening time and he will reach Lucknow in the midnight, but still he accepted our invitation. And so far in last years or so, I never heard no from him. So whenever we approach him, he always says, yes, it will happen. We will find out the way how things will happen, but it will happen. So he is always ready for INYAS. He is always there supporting INYAS, and let's welcome him for his inaugural lecture. Thank you, sir.
There's one INYAS. The name INYAS. Why? I used it yesterday only. Format drive. What is drive? Can you take it out and put it back? Or should I go get my? No? It's working.
Yes, this inside.
What is this one? Huh? No, not this one. What the hell? Okay. This one. No, not this one. Let's try this. Now. So it must be some other time. If one doesn't work, then the other
Yes,
does.
sure. The main usage of science. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, INYAS.
Yes.
Good. Now your job is safe, right?
Yes, sir.
There. Don't worry about it. Acha, this one is working, no?
Yes, sir.
No, this one. This is working?
Yes, sir, it's working.
No,
Switch
it's
it
not
on.
working.
You can try once, sir.
इसको बंद कर लो. Ah. So anyhow, I welcome all for the 9th. We completed 9 years of INYAS and entering into the 10th year, which is of course very precious. If we were to recall from our experience what we were doing when we entered not growing in terms of numbers, but I think the intent and the motivation and the clarity of vision and what is INYAS here for and how it would do things. So I think it's all coming together in a nice way, which is very good. Now this, of course, I had not made this presentation for today, which is why I got my picture. I sent it somewhere. They don't know who I am. So I think I put my picture there. In fact, I'm wearing the same coat as today here. But this picture is fully 10 years old. My coats last that long, which is very good. You know, I believe in sustainability and everything. Yeah, recycles. The other day I took out a T-shirt. It was 40 years old. So I was truly proud that, you know, I'm still carrying on good tradition of sustainability. And thanks. So this is a young academy. We start with a joke for young scientists. Sorry. Why did the young scientist bring a ladder to the lab? Because she wanted to reach for the highest levels of discovery. Chat GPT joke.
Then I said, so as the Dhaka was saying that this is like young scientists and younger scientists and things. So I said, I asked it again, tell a joke about younger scientists. That was about the young scientist. And now it's about the younger scientist. That was the joke. Why did the younger scientist say, what did the younger scientist say when he couldn't figure out the solution? I guess it's time to think outside the beaker instead of box. What a bad joke this is. Horrible. I have heard better jokes coming from ChatGPT. So, if you try 10 times, then you'll get one joke, one good joke that one can narrate. So another one, because in a chemistry conference, so there's a joke about chemists. He said, how come chemists can solve everything? Because they have all the solutions. About the chemist, yeah. And also the final one that I got from ChatGPT, it says, why do scientists not trust atoms? Because atoms make up everything. These are all science jokes. Yeah, okay. So, where did it go? So I talk about a lot nowadays about not so much about science that I may have done, others may have done, but what is the basis for doing good science? Or, the processes which are common to all of us, no matter if I'm a physicist or I'm a chemist or a biology person, what have you, and also about thinking about the future as to how our world of science is changing, what are the challenges of science, and what kind of preparation or tools of mind might be needed to address those challenges. So that in a nutshell is what I quickly want to talk about, but also there's some interaction, in session after that. So, so anything not covered here or whatever, we can discuss all of that. So first, let me just, as a kind of disclaimer, Dhaka said or introduced me as saying I'm coordinator of very many things. That was all 20 years ago. I have not changed my web page. So people pick up all their stuff from there, and they say I'm such and such professor and so on. All they're long gone. Okay, history. People still write Sheikh Shadri, chair professor and all that stuff, which is okay. Who cares? So I leave it there. And I must congratulate Dhaka and his team for doing all the great work that they have been able to do. And I'm sure that the new team that comes in tomorrow would continue to do equally well or better. Oh, and Dhaka pointed out, I saw that, he pointed out that now INSA is paying bills. That's more than I can say for my taxi bills, by the way. Okay, so I think you are really lucky here. Okay, my taxi bills, they get paid after 3 months. Oh, so you see, you have been able to browbeat them, which is very nice. Mhm. So I think in this year's theme for Science Day, I saw something about Viksit Bharat, I think. Or what was the theme this year? All right. Okay, so very good. So now my take on this is that, look, I have Viksit Bharat in mind. Is it there? It was there in the title, the Viksit Bharat. Yeah, I can. I'm just lazy, see. I can move it, and it's there in the title. So, so the take that we will go through together is not about technology, but I'm saying, in addition to technology, what is it that we scientists need, and at the same time, what is it that the society needs in order to do Viksit Bharat, or indeed to do anything for that matter. So I would look at those aspects that we usually don't talk about in scientific conferences and such, and then you just try to figure it out yourself. Some of that stuff. You're saying, how do I take care of jealousy of my neighbor? How do I make friends that would promote me in the next round of interviews? A whole lot of these concerns are there, but we never really talk about them very much.
We just think that life will take care of all these problems somehow or other. And if I just do my science, the point is, how do we do good science? And so, first of all, talking about Viksit Bharat and some success stories which are India-centric and what science technology has done for us since the independence. Many stories come to mind. Now, I mean, we take them for granted that we got good education, IITs, AIMS, ISERs, and so on, and good quality private sector education, rise of that education policy, whole lot of progress in food, water, sanitation, different revolutions of different colors, Sulabh. Now, I mean, this very ambitious program where water flows through taps in every home, very ambitious indeed. We have to produce not just water and tap, but also the sources of water and maintain them. Health and medical. You see, we all recall just 3 years ago, was it 3 years, that this pandemic struck, and there was nothing in the country at the time, right? Yeah, it was like 11th of March, 2020. I had gone for Foundation Day lecture of IIT Bombay, and while coming back, that's how I always remember the date when virus struck. It's just 10 days after that. But by that time, it was 11th March 2020. The airport was totally empty. It was a ghost town. I got pictures. Even in bathrooms, there nobody. Me and my mirror, and there was nothing there. It was like totally deserted. But anyway, in terms of preparation, we had nothing. No vaccines, no PPEs, no 95 masks, no ventilators, no diagnostics. So all of that could happen with some speed within a couple of months. A virus which was made possible because of the very strong foundations which were there in terms of the institutions, in terms of scientists, and in terms of infrastructure for science. All of that was there, the knowledge was there, so people were able to produce. But is that enough? I mean, if we had the knowledge and infrastructure in the lab, would that be enough to produce things of quality and at scale and in time? This is one of the questions I ask, and then we will try to address some part of that question. Is that enough? Is that sufficient? Is that necessary? Is that necessary and sufficient? What is it? So at the time of virus, clearly, you see, whatever was done at that time could have been done 10 years ago as far as the knowledge and infrastructure is concerned. So therefore, the answer obviously to the question is, it is not enough to have the right science and the right knowledge and the infrastructure. Something more is needed. And what is that something more which is needed? So first of all, connect between different stakeholders of science is absolutely necessary. Who are these stakeholders of science? These are scientists who produce knowledge, then other parts of the system that consume knowledge and produce opportunities. So these are government, these are industry, these are startups, NGOs, and different entities like that. So unless that there is a very close working together of these different things, that the output is not possible, the kind that we saw in the time of virus. At the same time, to make all this happen, then what will industry do? You didn't have the right policy. Sometimes biomedical devices need standards and regulation, that they would also need policies, laws, and so on. And finally, the will of society. So all of these factors, unless they be working together, will of society also including the communication, awareness, and so on. And clearly, problems like climate change, etc., they require all of these factors working together 100%. So again, I'll come to that in a moment. So I think the point that there are 2 points that I have tried to make. One is that there are different players in science. There are different players, and they all have different roles and different ways of doing things. And unless there be a good connect between them, that is difficult to deliver solutions that work. Second aspect, that to do science, it is not science that does science. It is people who do science. And so what is it that you require in people for them to do good science? So these are 2 different aspects that a little bit maybe that we could discuss. And these are all successes, the stories of success in modern day India, whole lot of the stuff going. Um, and you will note, I mean, if you were doing research on the success stories, then you would probe a little bit deeper to say what made this success possible. Why is it that, okay, people keep saying, hey, ISRO was successful, isn't it? How is ISRO different from ISR? Okay, or any of those questions when you say, look, this was successful, but this was maybe not. So what differentiates these different entities and their success? Okay, now the good news that we know that the India is number 3 in the world in terms of number of scientific publications. It's not equally good in terms of quality of those publications, but it's picking up. It's also third in the number of startups which are there based on technology, not in terms of the total, how you call that, the turnover, but in terms of number, and also number of startups which are called unicorn, which has a valuation of more than $1 billion. All of that has happened, coming to third position in papers and in startups. All of that has happened in last 10 years only. So just 10 years ago, there were, 9 years ago, there were less than 100 registered startups. Today, more than 100,000, which means 3 orders of magnitude jump in 9 years. So a whole lot of this has been made possible, not because our knowledge base has changed. Knowledge base changes slowly. It's, linear progression with a small slope. It has not changed that much. So what is it that has changed, and what is it, the lessons that we can learn in order to extrapolate it further? So it is clearly has something to do with, and not that, IITs have changed, but the people, the culture, the behavioral aspects of these people have certainly changed. And some for good, some for not so good. Either way, there is a change. And to account for this change in startup culture, for example, one must examine the change in behavioral aspects and cultural aspects. So third in number of also, if you look at the innovation index, which is an indicator of a country's preparedness for startups and innovation, India has gone up from about 89 9 years ago to below 40 now. So there's some way to go, but there has been a rapid progress. And so how do we do more of it? This is the question that we need to ask. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister said on the Civil Services Day 2022, he said our Amrit Kal is not just to laud the last 7 decades. We may have gone from 70 to 75 years in routine. We may have gone from 60 to 70 in routine, but from 70 to 2047, India at 100 cannot be routine. Our Amrit Mahotsav should be a watershed, the period 25, right, okay. You can read it, right? So I used to think, what is this Amrit Kal when I first heard about it? Okay, so I did a lot of research. I said, what is it? Is it because elections are coming up? Or what is happening, right? So, okay, it's not that. The thing is, it's intimately tied with our demographic dividend, which is why we have INYAS, right? So, of course, INYAS is already old because the median age of the country is 28 years, isn't it? So, therefore, that's why I'm saying younger, not young. Okay, everybody is young, some are younger. And in fact, the country is in fact much younger than INYAS membership. So that makes us humble a little bit, right? So the whole point is we have demographic dividend, which is a young nation, which means energetic nation, which means hunger to achieve. And the energy, to back it up, and education coming up and so on. So this is the window of opportunity, next 30 years. And so if you were to look at shifting demographic profile, you see that in 30 years, at the most 35 years, it would be a graying society like everywhere else, which means that the challenge, on top of every other challenge that we have, we would also have the challenge of taking care of the old, taking care of the young by the younger. Okay, old is such a bad word to use, anyways. But what are the other challenges which are going to intervene during the period of 30 years, which also put limits on our growth, right? So while taking care of those challenges and making use of demographic dividend is a challenge, and this is why Amrit Kal. And why 25 years is because this window of opportunity starts closing slowly but surely. So if you were to do some more research in this, which I did, typically this kind of demographic profile is obtained in every nation's history in 500 to 700 years. Okay, so you see what a great opportunity it is. So therefore, what we can also conclude that to make use of this demographic dividend, that it should not be business as usual. Now, this is a very big challenge because we are only aware of business as usual, which means, hey, we do PhD, then we do postdoc, then we say, look, I'll train 10 PhD students who will become professors. Maybe they'll make a mark in 50 years from now, 30 years from now, and so on. But we don't have that time. So whole point is, how do you actually do it now? The urgency of matter. So which is why I say sometimes, no, we have to do things, we have to solve problems in 3 different ways, which in Hindi I call Jugaad and Dhanda and Panga. So while we have been working on Jugaad and Dhanda a long time, Dhanda business as usual, right, which is like very, very slow growth, very slow change. There is not enough time for it. So therefore, how do we do disruptive things, which means Panga? But Panga, we are not trained for it. There's a whole point is it's not appreciated anywhere. I mean, if you go very fast, people would slow you down. Okay, and they say, no, this is not the right way to do it. They will say, what is a hurry? Sit down, have 10 cups of tea, then we'll worry about it later, and so on, right? So it's basically to bring the urgency of change in mind. And a lot of it requires that we do out-of-box thinking, out-of-beaker thinking, as the joke was saying, and have enough confidence to be able to pull it off, right? And despite the fact that a lot of people would say, no, this is not possible. Moreover, that why do you want to take risk and do this? You may fail and so on. So you say you may fail and so on. This is cultural. This is behavioral. So therefore, unless we had some very fundamental change in our behavior of doing things, it would be very hard to actually answer in positive any of these questions. What are these questions that we hear all the time? They say, why a follower, the leader? Why is one risk averse? Incremental. What does incremental means? Incremental means, this is what the bulk of our research is actually. So it means, hey, like there are 4 cornered something, 3 corners have been solved. Can I solve 4th corner with the same equations? And not really any great new insight. So all of that happens all the time. Why we're not connected to all the stakeholders, to society? And this is very important because this is under our control. Why is one negative and complaining all the time? Have you seen that? And I have a very simple logic for it. The simple logic is, look, it's not possible to complain logically. And I'll tell you how it is so. So a whole lot of people, let's say I joined IIT in 1990, a lot of people joined before, soon after, and so on. And they will all complain. They will say, I can't do anything in IIT. MIT is so much better. So I say, why don't you go to MIT? They have no answer for it. So they choose to be in IIT, or that IIT chooses them. They have no option, but they complain, right? So this is not logical. Okay, I'm saying, well, if you have a better opportunity, do that. Go there, but don't, if you have to stay here, there's no point complaining. There are other people who are religious. And then, they say, hey, fate and God and stuff like that. If people were really believed in God, they cannot complain because God knows better than what is good for them, rather than they know what is good for them, right? So no matter how you look at it, whether you believe in logic or you believe in God, one cannot complain because it serves no purpose at all. Okay. So of course one can bitch about things with friends, so it takes out some frustration and stuff. But the whole point is you cannot take it too seriously. If you don't let it affect you, it may affect other people. That's okay, right? This negativity and complaining, because one can't take it very, people who start believing their complaints after a while and negativity, it only hurts them. I've never seen anybody progress doing anything great in this world simply by saying that the world is so wrong. Okay, and the point is, most people don't recognize the fact that world is so wrong. So there's nothing to complain about because that's the reality of the world. And so first time, younger people would come and say, they'll say, sir, madam, whatever. They say, this is so unfair. And I say, welcome to the world. Okay, I mean, so, first time somebody recognized that this is an unfair world. I mean, what a shock it is, isn't it? But that's the reality. So, and it cannot be fair to everybody at the same time, because when the world is fair to me, it's unfair to you because you're in competition with me. So therefore, there would never be a world which is 100% fair. It's just not logically not possible. So, okay, so why we say why little translation and innovation? And then people keep saying why no Nobel Prize, especially for a funding agency. Everybody is asking, oh, there must be something wrong with our research and our science and everything. Why there is no Nobel Prize? And you ask this question to n number of people, then they say, hey, how can you fix all this? Then they will say, answer is, give me more funding. I know you are laughing, but the point is we really have no other fix for this. We have not thought hard enough about it, right? So while funding certainly is good, I mean, the more is the merrier, no doubt about it, but it's not a solution to all of these problems. Because we know that there are many groups in the country who are sufficiently funded. The infrastructure today is much better than it was 20 years ago. But is that the only solution there is, or there is some other weakness in all of this? So this is some other weakness is what we need to focus on, not just funding. Funding sufficient level has to be there. So what could possibly be these weaknesses? Of course, that these weaknesses are there in the way we train people. First of all, even in school, I see so many parents are scolding their children saying, hey, you got 95%, but the neighbor got 99. Okay, and so on. This competition is so cutthroat, dog eat dog world, so to say, that people never develop self-esteem and confidence, and without that taking risk ability. I mean, people know that they would get into IIT or somewhere only by doing coaching. You take away that coaching from them, what they got left? Zero. And what is it that they can claim to be their own? That they can say, look, I have the confidence to solve this problem. So even after doing coaching, after doing all of this stuff, people have no confidence, and that the learning process has been so fragmented and incomplete that the synthesis to find solution to a problem is very difficult. So while people may top their course in separately in thermodynamics, separately in fluid mechanics, separately in something other, but when a problem solution has to be done, which requires synthesis from social science to chemistry to physics to biology and so on, people don't know how to do that because education is not like that at all. Education is from chapter to chapter, from exam to exam, from degree to degree, from college to college, and so on. And everything else before and after is forgotten. We don't see the relation between them at all. This is a very great failure, and it's not a complaint. Okay, so this is a great failure, and what is it that we can do about it? Now, our role starts at the time of training PhD students, right? I mean, what is a template for training PhD students? There's no template. I produce my clones, you produce yours, okay? So this is basically not realizing that we need to produce clones for a world, not for me. So, I mean, it's so clear that everybody did PhD with me, they want to become professors, right? Because they have seen no other life. And moreover, they think it's a very cool life and good money and so on. But then we are not producing people for real challenges of this world. I mean, now everybody is cut out to be a professor, isn't it? But we have no mechanism to recognize their inherent strength and be able to push them in that particular direction. This is a very difficult task. Okay, and then the question is, well, how do we do it? If you were to do it at all, you will do it at great cost to yourself and possibly even to the student. Because every time you look for a job, the secure jobs in government labs and institutions, they are into, count number of papers. They count some other stuff. Fact is that there are very few experts who can tell what is in the paper. That's a fact again, whether it's fairness, unfairness, I don't know what you call it, but all committees have very limited reservoir of knowledge to judge people. Still, they have to judge people. So they don't want to appear to be ignorant. No committee wants to appear to be ignorant, right? I mean, it says about your self-esteem. You say, I know everything, I will do the right judgment, and so on. So how do you do? Then you go by numbers, count this, you count that. I even had committees which said, I said, look at this guy's CV. He says, but he's not a fellow of any academy. So I said, so that's why you are there in the sitting in the committee, no? Damn it, start looking at CV, right? So people just go by, the easy way to judge people, whether it's about recruitment, whether it's about promotions, whether it's about this, about that. They say, okay, if 3 committees have made a mistake, then I can also make it. It's okay, right? At least nobody will question me. He is already a fellow or somewhere, then I can also make him a fellow. They always say, look, getting the first 2 awards is the hardest thing. Okay, after that, all the other committees will say, ठीक है, good. Yeah, Shanti Swaroop, okay. Shanti हो गई, चलो दे दो उनको भी, right? We must recognize it's not, if you don't get an award or something, it's not necessarily a personal reflection for you to take it so seriously that one would be depressed and one would say, or say it's so unfair and so on. Of course it's unfair. Now please remember that. Okay, never say the world is unfair, because it is. Yeah. And so the second aspect, everybody makes, committees are not, they make mistakes. Some of those mistakes are genuine in the sense that, they're honest errors. Some of them are dishonest errors, but either way it can happen. I mean, we always introduce now conflict of interest norms and so on everywhere. I know, this academy has very strict conflict of interest norms. For example, that people you work with, the people you're working with, people you have good friends, relatives, and so on, you must not get into judging them. In fact, I tell you, somebody is talking on phone, on speaker phone, and this guy is telling him, make me a fellow of INSA. He was saying he was asking for some, he was asking some work from this guy, and he's saying, make me a fellow. I was so upset. I said, even if he is screened by a committee, I would shoot him down. Finally, he is never going to be fellow in his whole life. Somebody who is so bad, openly talking about business, he's saying, you give me this, I'll give you that. Right? You don't want people like that to belong to your club. So you have to be brutally honest about this and cut these people down. So the reason I'm saying all this is because, next maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years, you would be manning all these committees, womanning all these committees, whatever. So the point is that while we are out of it, we complain a lot. But when you are sitting there, then we also change. So you can't blame anybody for this. If, I'm going to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, then, I shouldn't really be, saying anything bad about anybody. So that is a thing. I always remember that when you are younger now, later you will be young. Okay, or as we used to say, from young now I'll be old later. So I recall so well that when I was younger, that we would always criticize less young people. And then when I'm less young, I criticize younger people. So the whole point is that both of this is meaningless, isn't it? So if you recognize that now, you would now worry about the stereotypes of saying, like, this old guy is not good, this young guy is not good, whatever. It has no meaning. So, so if we are able to deal with across ages, across gender, across socio-cultural background, and so on, this is all about diversity. So diversity is so important. I'll also come to that. So what is it? Okay, maybe some talk that I gave is about future and technological challenges. So we know AI. AI, of course, the most important technological challenge which is coming up, because it's going to impact every aspect of our life. Then the second aspect is socio-cultural challenges, societal-cultural challenges, which are, for example, climate and sustainable development goals. See, the reason I have made it in two parts is that there are certain challenges that are totally science and technology challenges. But there are challenges of future, overarching challenges, which are much harder to deal with only through science and technology, are the challenges which are societal, cultural challenges, which are climate change, for example, and sustainable development. Whole lot of people would tell us that technology will take care of climate change. They are either fool themselves or fooling you. Okay, so I will come to that in a moment, and there is no technological solution to climate change. No scientific solution alone for climate change. So then finally we'll look at what makes science and technology work. It's not only science and technology, but what makes it work. So first challenge we are saying of the future and now, rise of intelligent machines. You see, there's another, in the context of India, this actually has a very different meaning, because the rise of intelligent machines, IoT, Industry 4.0 and so on, it has happened in the countries which have no young people. Their demographic dividend is gone, right, from east to west. So now you're saying, look, how am I going to produce more? How am I going to have GDP growth? I don't have the people, but I have machines who can do it for me, right? Now our problem is inverse. Our problem is got people and no jobs. So on top of that, you're going to layer AI. No technology has ever been stopped by any society in the entire history. So if AI is there, AI is going to be here. You can't stop it. And so therefore there's a challenge, an additional challenge for India to deal with, which is how do you produce new opportunities using the same technology, which elsewhere is replacing people. So the point is completely different. So each one of us as an expert in our own domain have to think about how do we leverage this new revolution to create new opportunities, not to destroy some of the opportunities for humans. So this is a very critical question, and every sector has a different answer for this. And these are the areas of growth in science. Okay, if I can recognize, hey, in the Indian context, how do we do all this? Second aspect of this challenge is that you see that at one time, science was all about fragmenting it in 10 different ways or 1,000 different ways. Today, science is all about convergence. So now it's so much easier to break something than to put it together back again. This is a synthesis versus analysis. So while I've gotten very good at my very narrow domain of knowledge by breaking it further and further, now to bring it all together again is a Herculean task, because we already know, while we talk about interdisciplinary all the time, really nobody is bothered. Okay, because we don't like people who are not like us. So it's very simple. You say, what kind of chemist are you? I'm green chemist, but you are red chemist. I don't know what. So anyway, it doesn't happen. So interdisciplinary, to bring things together, which is what is required and what is happening now, is very hard task, and no education has prepared us actually for that. So cyber physical is a convergence of digital and cyber on one hand, and physical and material and machine on the other hand. And this is happening more and more. In fact, you have seen that news now. The Industry 4.0 is a convergence of physical and cyber. But you have seen that news about chip going to the brain. So the next revolution, which is Industry 6.0 and beyond, would be convergence of biological with physical and cyber, or digital cyber on one hand, physical, and biological is the third, completing the love triangle, and also providing such huge both opportunity and challenges, if you would, which are unprecedented. To deal with these challenges requires a new mind. Okay, it cannot be done the same way that we are used to, saying okay, because this has very great impact on every possible aspect of our lives. Then there were some missions which have been going on in response to these challenges. Of course, these missions are not sufficient to meet these challenges. But anyway, let's come on to the overarching challenge of sustainability and climate. And there are, of course, missions and stuff, technological response. But what I want to show you, we all know stuff, no matter what science I'm doing, I should find out, look, where does my science fit in one of these goals? Because this is all that would remain in the end. And no matter whether it's organic chemistry, inorganic, physical, what have you. I'm just giving example of chemistry because I know some areas in chemistry. Okay, I don't know as much in other areas. So as we know that chemistry already has some 10 to 12 different areas. But the whole point is it's not sufficient to say I am a chemist of XYZ kind. I should be able to say, look, this chemistry of XYZ kind, how is it relevant for any of these stuff which is happening around me? So if I can find my niche and saying, here is the problem that I can address with the tools that I have, then that makes some difference. Now, okay, let's look at the question of whether science and technology is sufficient for what I call societal, behavioral, cultural problems, and climate change being one of them. So now you see, when we talk about science and technology solutions, what we are talking about is the greater efficiency of consumption. What that means is emission per GDP or per consumption, what is the emission? So technology can only decrease at 1%, 2%, 3%, and so on. But if you look at the total consumption, that keeps on going up more than what is addressed by technology. So while emission may decrease by 2% by new technology, the total consumption goes up 5%. In fact, it is a stated goal of all nations to have 5% GDP growth. But unless we have a matching technology that every year is cutting down emissions by 5% in the same production, you're not going to cut down emissions. And this is fairly clear. If you were to look at, no matter we have clean technologies, green technologies, what have you, good funding for research and so on, in last 20 years, it doesn't mean that emissions have gone down. In fact, they have gone up. So here, I mean, I often quote this. I say, I used to think top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought with 30 years of good science, we could address those problems. But he was wrong. The top problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation, and we scientists don't know how to do that. Of course, it's not to blame only scientists. Nobody knows it, right? Businessmen don't know it. Nobody knows it. Bureaucrats don't know it. Nobody knows it. Okay? So whole point is nobody is in control, very simply put. If you said, look, there is some God up there who would take care of my problem, or some president of a big republic or something, it's not going to happen. Nobody is in control. So in fact, the point is that this is, it requires, while we are focusing totally on the technology of controlling the external world, we are not thinking an iota about the technology to control our mind. It's very simple, because somehow all my teachers all believed in, and they taught me, I think, that this new science for the last 100, 200 years, totally believed and have totally brainwashed us and conditioned us into thinking the solution to all our problems is in science and technology. While that is certainly so, it is not all solutions are in science and technology. However, it should be very easy to see that empirically, because every time some of my friend is very depressed, he has only 4 cars, then he thinks I'll buy another car, then he'll be happy. Okay, because there's no other fix that he knows about how to become happy. So therefore, he's saying, hey, it's through science, technology, and consumption that I'll be able to address all these problems, and nothing could be more wrong. So while may argue, look, what's got that to do with me, right? Because I'm only working in my lab, and I'm saying, look, this is what I can do, and this is what I'm doing, right? What it has to do with us is that, if we had little better control of our inner world, then we can have better control in the outer world. Okay, which is very clear, and this is basically what I'm talking about, is the socio-cultural aspects, behavioral aspects of doing science. So, I mean, if a person is only making hydrogen bombs because he's now very at peace with himself, okay, then there can be peace outside in the world. And a whole lot of stuff that happens is because of that. So it is the greed which drives all of this. So now, of course, that there is a lot of social science research in this aspect. We say, look, our actually economy, the way it is set up, which is in direct response to all the industrial revolutions which have happened from Industry 0 to Industry 4.0. How many here know about Industry 3.0, which happened in our lifetimes, of course? Industry 2 was some time back, so we don't remember any of that. I mean, it was before we were born, and Industry 1, also before we were born, and Industry 0 before that for a very long time. These are all related to the flows of energy, material, and now data, which is the new oil, if you would. Okay, so what is it? I mean, Industry 3.0, I'm sure everybody knows, right? I would be very shocked if, at least 90% people don't know what is Industry 3.0. Huh? Dhaka, you know? Are you sure? Wow, that's so cool. No, but Industry 3.0 came when you were younger. Yeah, in your life, which is the rise of digital. Okay, it's very simple. There was an era before email. There was an era before the internet, before the cell phone, before all of that. Computers, right? Computation, communication, and all of that. So rise of digital is Industry 3.0. And which is what we are, but I call it passive digital, which means it's in my hands, it's not in my brain yet. Okay, so in that next revolution, as I pointed out, would exactly be just that. So now, you see, the whole thing is set up. It's called for-profit economy. What it means is the corporation is responsible only for the profits of their shareholders. It's not responsible for the profits to the earth. It's fairly clear, because, and this is taken as a, what do you call that, as a religion, if you would. Nobody can ever question this, isn't it? Because it's the world in which we live. So now, you see, so this is called extractive economy. And this was not always so. I mean, it's just last 200 years that this has become an article of faith, like any religion. So if you were to compute, let us say, if I compute profit not to an entity like a corporation, but I compute the total profit to earth, then you see it's totally different. It's even, sometimes you say, look, I want to have Atmanirbhar Bharat, I don't want imports. But how do you do imports? Because you do, let's say, global tender. You do global tender, then you would have an L1. You only buy, lowest price quoted. But that is the lowest price to the corporation that is doing the purchase. But if you were to look at lowest price to the nation as a whole, that's a totally different tender. Okay, that would take into account how many jobs are created here, how much of that money is circulating here versus somewhere else, and all of that. So the total opportunities that a tender creates in the country versus what it creates for a corporation, they're totally different measures. And so similarly, if you were to say an economic decision, what does it do to a corporation versus what does it do to society versus what does it do to planet Earth, and what does it do not today, but 100 years from now? That's a completely different analysis. And so unless some part of that analysis comes in, there we cannot actually change anything simply by science and technology. Finally, let me say foundation. What makes science and technology work? Let's say the first aspect is the invention ecosystem, which creates knowledge. And that knowledge, if it has relevance and direction and quality, then it is good. 3 keywords: quality, direction, and relevance. So all of us are basically into this invention ecosystem. The universities, ISAs, IITs, R&D labs, and everybody else, we are creating knowledge. Often, of course, we may forget about the quality, direction, and relevance part, which is very hard because we are only like following some fashion, saying, oh, this thing is hot nowadays and stuff, so others are doing it, so I'm also doing it. It's not very clear whether it has some taker for it. So second aspect of taker is innovation ecosystem. Innovation ecosystem consumes the knowledge that we generate. So the connect between invention and innovation ecosystem is what determines the success of scientific enterprise in the country. A very simple example is, there is often a mistaken assumption that if I had great basic research, then I'll also have great industrial opportunities. That may be so, but it's not localized. In other words, if we had a Raman effect, which is used in all the technology around the world, but none of it, the profits come to India because of that. So therefore, invention and innovation ecosystem often are totally independent entities, And unless there is a good connect between them, no matter how many great basic science I have done and how many great basic scientists I have, it would have no impact on my economy. It may have impact somewhere else on their economy. Okay, whoever is ready to take this knowledge and turn it into commercial gains would be the gainer. So, okay, now the way I explain it, oftentimes people don't know what innovation actually means. So I often take just 30 seconds to clarify that. And this is actually true of 80% scientists also, don't know what innovation means. So while we keep trying to be innovative and we keep saying we should push innovation, and people say there are things called innovative knowledge and innovative thoughts and so on, we don't know actually what innovation means. So invention we means is creating knowledge. Innovation does not mean that. So if I say innovative thought, hey, what an innovative thought, people think is some very creative thought. It doesn't have to be creative thought. It doesn't have to be novel thought. It doesn't have to be no thought like that. It has to be a thought which can be translated into commercial gains. Okay, it could be a chai wala thought. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be high technology thought. Okay, so innovation basically is turning knowledge into opportunity, which is different from invention. Invention is turning opportunity into knowledge. I mean, it looks pretty bad to say that, right? Because we have money coming in and knowledge flowing out. That's what invention ecosystem is, right? But innovation ecosystem is opposite because it's the knowledge flowing in and money flowing out. You see, totally opposite of invention. Invention takes money and creates knowledge. Innovation consumes that knowledge to produce more money. So, so while we are good at invention ecosystem, we are very weak in innovation ecosystem, and that's what I was saying, training our PhD students and so is such an important aspect that we also bring in some principles of innovation in their life and their thinking, which is totally missing in the education ecosystem. Once I was taking a meeting of these Inspire fellow thing, and Ramanujan and Ramlinga Swami and all of them, there are about 200 odd fellows were there. And so I was asking them, how many of you are preparing for a job in industry? And only 2 out of 200. This was a shocker because you see there we produce about 25,000 PhDs in science and engineering every year in the country. But if you were to count the number of jobs, they certainly fall short of these numbers. So now everybody can find a job in academia and in R&D, government R&D sector. So at the same time, we have to create new opportunities by using this knowledge. Third aspect, which is so important, without which science cannot work, is the policies. Rules, laws, structure, so on, vision, and the connects. And then finally, the one word we're talking about is the cultural and behavioral aspects, if you would. So which is ought to be part of our training when I'm training PhD students or anybody else for that matter. You all know Chandrasekhar Sharma, right? See, he was my PhD student. But, I mean, he became good not because of me, but despite me. Okay? But anyway, the point is that there are cultural, behavioral aspects which makes it possible to be more effective in doing our work. I'll give you an example of policies, that without policy, how can you not have good science work for you? And so people understand that completely, that these are not some, we're just talking in air. Let me, I think we run out of time, no? And I haven't done even any substantial thing here. Run out of time, isn't it? Huh? Yeah, interaction, that's right. Why don't I run through these slides in 2.5 minutes, and then we can have interaction. So these are, okay, we said, what are the processes of mind that have to match our demands of science in the new millennium, the challenges of the future, and all the stuff that we have been talking about. So we say, okay, we need a push on innovation, we push on out-of-box thinking, because business as usual will not solve these problems. That's the conclusion we came to. So what is this meaning of creativity and common sense and all that stuff that we need to worry about? And there are many examples I had of that, which not time for it. Here's an example from my own lab. So I was working in nano fabrication at that time. And we say, look, there are two different methods of nanofabrication. It's called top-down and bottom-up. Then we're thinking, hey, I watched a movie in the 80s, last century. This is called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So I say, why can't you make something bigger and shrink it and make it smaller? There could be a way to nanofabricate. So what I want to illustrate with this example is that, look, people nowadays are looking for new ideas. So no matter how absurd an idea may be, there is technology to convert it into practical solution. Usually technology is not the bottleneck anymore. Finding a new compelling idea, something that is hard because we are not really thinking like that. We are thinking, what are other people doing? Let me also do the same thing in an incremental way. So anyway, what I illustrate with this concept is that yes, it can work, that you can make larger things, and then let's say do micro molding with a gel, then shrink the gel, do another generation of micro molding, shrink it again. So starting with this, shrink, you can have a complex 3D object which can be shrunk to a small size. So that is like micro fabrication or nano fabrication could be done even in a high school lab. And so other point, it always amused me, is that we could publish this paper in the top journal of material science. It's called Advanced Materials. So while the idea looks strange, okay, and it looks like commonplace or something, people just don't get it. I mean, they didn't get it earlier. So it could publish it, and sometimes, 4 PhD students have to work 3 years to publish in this journal. By this, we could do in 2 months after getting the idea. Okay, so I think the point I want to illustrate with this is that we often undervalue new ideas, and in fact, we're not really thinking out of box and taking risk in thinking and doing that. So this is about innovation. Forget about that. New India interventions. There was some analysis of why innovation startup ecosystem often fails, and undertaken this analysis while launching a new mission called Nidhi. And Nidhi was in 2016. In 2015, Prime Minister had launched Startup India. And in response to them, the Department of Science and Technology had this scheme called Nidhi. And so he's saying, look, analysis of why people don't succeed. Okay, so if we can plug those gaps, because innovation in startup is like a chain, the strength of the chain is determined by the weakest link, not by the strongest link, which is why, people get very upset when I first time sit down with them, whether it's students, anybody else. I'm never saying anything good. Okay, I'm always saying this is lacking, that is lacking, that is lacking, right? And people get very upset. I've done so much work, and you are saying, oh, so you're saying, look, it's not. You should never focus on strengths. You should only focus on weaknesses. Okay, because that's the only way that one would make progress in science, or indeed in this case. So we look at all these aspects by looking at many startups and saying, how did they fail? What are the modes of failure? Not the modes of success. Where we can remove the modes of failure, then success is a byproduct of that. Inclusion and diversity poses a huge challenge. We already know that. So, worry about it. Industry 0 to 4 doesn't matter. So, there was a Science 20 group of G20 that I had chaired last year. And the things that we debated to bring out a policy paper at the end of it is the clean energy for greener future, universal holistic health, which has a meaning. Okay, what is universal? Is that every single person is able to get the health services. Yes, universal. And holistic means not just health in the hospital, but the overall health, which includes the health of environment, it includes the health of our neighbors and everybody else. There is no such thing as personal happiness. So I think one of the mistaken impressions of the modern era is that I can get all the happiness for myself by excluding others from it. It doesn't happen, because in the long run, all the people who are unhappy around me, they will come and kill me. Okay, so this is the right. So universal holistic health has a certain meaning, and especially so in Indian context. And also the meaning is that, look, universal health by business as usual is not going to happen in the next 50 years. If we simply said, look, I'll just make more hospitals, I'll make more doctors, I'll do this, we know the pace at which all of that can happen. So we know that it's not going to happen. So therefore, if you want to start with universal health, it means you have to think out of box, not business as usual, but disruptive way of thinking and doing things. Otherwise, there is no hope. And then, of course, connecting science to society and the cultural aspects. So I think we can stop there. What I want to say is, often people ask, they say, hey, what does the future hold? What kind of technology would be successful? What kind of business would be successful in the future? We don't know what exact product will be successful in the future, but we know the direction of that change. Direction of that change comes from the desires of mind, what the mind wants. So if I can capture that, then I will have a very successful business. In fact, you can see, to be healthy, to have good quality of life, to be connected with equality. For example, to be connected. You see, the social media is in response to that basically. To learn and apply, to make decisions in complexity, rise of AI, machine learning in response to that. To be entertained, the rise of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, all of that in response to that need to have a better life, to be happy. No technology will guarantee that. But anyway, you can have some entertainment and stuff, that can be done with technology to find fulfillment, to create and control its own world, and to live maybe forever. In doing all of this, one assumption that had gone horribly wrong is to equate happiness with consumption. And so that's fairly clear, and we don't need to worry about it. So this is some of the processes of new mind that we have not been emphasizing. But common sense is becoming less and less common, for sure. Lateral thinking, connecting the dots, creativity, being interdisciplinary, portability of tools and concepts across the silos of knowledge, translational aspects, innovation, and so on. Okay, so I said one example I'll give you of how policy makes science work. So this is a policy related to surveying and mapping. Now, surveying and mapping is a very big thing because a lot of economic gains ride on it. There was a policy in India for 100 years from the time of British that nobody is allowed to do surveying and mapping. Okay, it's illegal. Somebody said about paying legal bills. Legal bills, yeah. Okay, legal bills. Okay. All my bills, taxi bills are legal, by the way. Okay. Let me just clarify. I wish I remembered some joke at this point. I think it's becoming too heavy. Yes, so for 100 years, the policy was that makes it illegal to do surveying and mapping because security concerns of the British. And the technology was very different, right? So if I don't let you do mapping, then you have no access to maps. Today, technology is different. We carry maps in our pocket, which in fact they were illegal. These maps that we carry are illegally made. Okay, the Indian law does not permit the maps that I carry on my smartphones, right? But anyway, since nobody is asking for permission to make these maps, so whether it's legal or illegal, people go about doing it, right? But Indian citizens, Indian entities, Indian corporations could not do surveying and mapping without tedious approvals. And these approvals are from home, from defense, from IB, and all these people. It's very tedious. It used to take 8 months. So if I want to make a road, railroad, tunnel, infrastructure, services, all of that, one needs these approvals, very tedious. So, we are looking at it. In good old days when I was growing up, everywhere they used to have a sign, it says no photography. In the airports and railway stations and everywhere, dams, they'll say tunnels, they'll say no photography. Why? Because the technology of satellites was not there at that time. So whole point is when the technology changes, then you cannot hide anything from the enemy. If you cannot hide anything from the enemy, you can make a law which says I'll hide it from my own citizens, which makes no sense. So it's absurd. So what happens is the policy space and technology have to progress together. So once you come to that, Department of Science and Technology, they are responsible for making policies on surveying and mapping. We have an entity called Survey of India is a department under them. So we realize that this has to be done. So if we say, look, if we remove all the restrictions on surveying and mapping, and say, look, any city and any corporation, public or private, can do surveying and mapping without any problems, okay, then this would bring about a great revolution, and I'll tell you how. It's not very obvious as to why that is so important. But anyhow, after liberalization and deregulating the sector, that this can be done, and it has started doing for last 2 years. Many corporations are into it now. So what do you think is the impact of this simple policy, which can be summed up in one sentence? The one sentence is, they say there is no approval needed for surveying and mapping by any Indian entity, public or private, except in those areas which are considered out of bounds by a competent authority. So which takes into account defense lands, for example. Okay, I don't have access to it, then I cannot do surveying and mapping. Very simple. Okay, now what is the biggest impact of it other than the fact that infrastructure development, services development, within the next few years, you must have maps which are made in India, which are much better than the maps we are using now, simply as because of the impact of this policy. So it is not because we were lacking drone or LiDAR, which is required for mapping, if we were lacking policy for it to happen. So while you may have science, and by the way, all these maps that we use now, they are made by Indians only sitting in Bangalore. So it's not because we lack human resources, not because we lack infrastructure, but because we lack policy, which will not allow it to be done. So now what is the biggest impact? So of course services and infrastructure, but even much bigger than that, all our rural folks and semi-urban areas, people don't have ownership certificate for their land. Very big problem from the time of British. Half the court cases and blood feuds going through generations are because people don't have ownership papers for their land, isn't it? If they don't have ownership paper for their land, they cannot take loan against it, right? You cannot have a collateral that you can go to bank and get money. So this is all land, huge amount of land, which are locked up like gold in the bank lockers, right? To monetize it, all you need is this ownership certificate. And so this scheme, which is called Swamitwa, started after it was the surveying and mapping what was made legitimate. So now this is in full swing. The whole country is being mapped digitally at a scale of 5 centimeter accuracy. And so people get this, then dispute resolution automatically happens and so on. And the impact of this simple thing then would be order of tens of lakhs of crores, because this is how much land gets monetized. It comes out of the system, it gets into economy, right? With all this money I can borrow against this land from banks, that contributes to my economy. So you see, this is a very simple example that people can understand in 5 minutes about what is the role of policy space in making our science work or not. Oh, that I made some slides for career advice. Oh, and then this is the other part of the talk, which let us forget about it. This part of the talk is only quoting these two scientists that we respect so much, J.C. Bose and Raman, about what they said about the cultural aspects of science. And so it resonated with me. I said, basically I'm saying, look, the world of J.C. Bose and C.V. Raman was not so different from the world in which we live, even though it looks like, hey, there's 100 years between them. But the problems that they were grappling with while doing science were similar challenges that we face today. And for example, taking risk. I am the master of my failure. If I never fail, how will I ever learn? Very simple thing. But while people don't like to fail, I mean, they say, no risk. Most of the proposals that I have seen, okay, the research proposals, they are proposals in which work has already been done. There is no risk. We know that there is zero risk in those proposals. And so if you were to actually look at, hey, proposal which really is open-ended, which is high risk, but if you were to solve that problem, the reward is also proportionally high. Those kind of proposals are very few, if at all there. In fact, I even started a new scheme in SERB. It's called high risk, high reward, or something like that. And the proposal they were getting, I said, hey, what is the risk element in this? They said, because it's 10 crore proposal. The risk is to SERB, not to the scientist. Right? So people think if money is more, the risk is more. Yeah, of course. Power of ideas. The essence of science is independent thinking, hard work, not equipment. When I got my Nobel, he spent hardly 200 rupees on my equipment. I am not advocating that we should work with 200 rupees. Add inflation to that. Okay, right? But I mean, all I'm saying is, okay, while money is necessary, power of ideas is often forgotten. Confidence is the key. We have, I think, developed an inferiority complex. I think what is needed in India today is the destruction of that defeatist spirit. So this is a cultural aspect, very, very important. Democratization of science. We must teach science in mother tongue. Otherwise, science will become a highbrow activity. It will not be an activity in which all people can participate. I feel it's unnatural, immoral to try to teach science to children. Foreign language, they will know facts, but they'll miss the spirit. There is something deeper to this, because our knee-jerk reaction would be to say all the popular arguments about the local languages in science, this requires much greater discussion. You see, the whole point is there's some, let me take a side street to this concept, which is, you see, it's not only about, while in science and mathematics there could be a little universal language, but in life and how we approach science, that depends very greatly on the language in which we do thinking. Okay, and this is why linguistic diversity is equally important as the gender diversity, as the every other age diversity, and so on. Because you think differently in different languages. I know this because I can switch between thinking in different languages. So it basically means they get one kind of thoughts. If you're thinking in Sanskrit, you think different kind of thoughts when you're thinking in French, for example, and so on. So it is about having a holistic world in which we live, about having different perspectives, and so this is so important. Also, you realize that all the technologies that we have dealt with since the days of technologies came, technologies reduce diversity, always. And what do you think is the reason for that? More standardization because it's good for economy. The kind of plug I should use here should be the same as used in New York, so that I can import it from there and it plugs in here, right? So more is the granularity, more, less diversity is not welcomed by economy, right? So there is always a push for homogenization of everything, and that's why you get the same McDonald's from East Coast to West Coast now in India and everywhere else, right? So standardization, basically, because it's good for business, they try to reduce diversity. So we have to look for new science and technology that would retain diversity, at the same time do our function even with greater efficiency. To give you an example, let's say machine translation. When it becomes very accurate and real time, it is obvious that I don't need to know English. Why should I learn English? Because I will think and talk in my own language, and you will hear it in English. And you will hear it with the proper accent, and you will hear it whether it's Queen's English or King's English or Slave's English, whatever it is, whatever you like to hear, in that way you will hear it and understand it. So this is an example of new technologies that can encourage and retain diversity, which is so important. I mean, think about food diversity. I absolutely refuse to eat paneer, dal makhni, and what is it called? Kofta, malai kofta or something. This has become the universal food habit in north of India. No matter what party you would go to, you would have this, right? And so, see, diversity is gone totally, because the local cuisine, that flavor of every area which had to be cultivated and promoted, nobody does it anymore, because for economy, this is much better option, right? And it is a no-brainer option. I keep telling people, yeah, think some new cuisine, some new menu. He said, I have 10 kind of paneer. Okay, so diversity means paneer, but 10 different kind, and they all same gravy. Okay, so if you take 3 vegetables, then all have same gravy. Okay, so that's the meaning of diversity. Diversity is just not that. It's not that, oh, in car, you have 10 different models. Diversity means that you decide whether you want car or no car. Okay, it's not a question of choosing between 10 different models of cars. So the illusion of diversity is created by modern technologies by giving many senseless options, like 10 different paneers, for example. So this is the point I wanted to emphasize. I have never seen a good scientist who doesn't have three things: respect for self and the others, confidence in what that person is doing, no matter what others are telling him. Is ye nahi ho sakta, wo nahi ho sakta, ye galat hai. Okay, that is never going to work. And the third aspect I have not written here is some sense of humor, because every day you will be depressed about something or other. So if we can't deal with it, then the creative juices stop. We can't laugh. That's what happens. So now this is what Raman, I think, was saying. Now J.C. Bose was saying something. He was saying, how many here read Mahabharat? What? What? देखा? देखा है? नहीं नहीं वो नहीं. That's not Mahabharat. That is soap opera. वो उसमें वो है सास बहू की स्टोरी है in different form. Right? अरे other day we were having this women scientist event here, no? अभी तो था. स्वाति था, right? Yeah. So I was thinking, hey, one of the problems, women scientists is pati, patni or wo. Wo is mother-in-law. Just a joke. I'm sure everybody has very good mother-in-laws. I know I did. Anyway, so well, this guy is saying, like that of my boyhood's hero Karna, my life has been ever one of combat and must be to the last. It is not for men to complain. This is exactly what I was saying, of circumstances, but bravely to accept, to confront, and to dominate them. So this is a very good advice, for any scientist, struggling scientist, accomplished scientist, whatever kind of scientist, and everybody else. And holistic thinking, well, okay, let's go. I get so thrilled reading this, even though I may have read it 10 times, because just like Mahabharata, you find some new meanings every time you would read them. First time I finished reading Mahabharata original was I was 7 years old, and now I will be hitting 70 soon. So, but you can find new meanings every time you were to read this. Okay. I think this is probably the last one. Yeah. Okay. So I think you can all read them. And since we are talking about Viksit Bharat, this is so important. And so to conclude, I would say that we must ever be thinking about the cultural and behavioral aspects in doing what we are doing if we want to be done successfully. It's not just what I do inside my lab that counts. Okay, I mean, of course that counts, but even there we have to do it with behavioral modifications, ever encouraging our students to be out of box, to be daring, to take risk, to have soft skills, to have confidence, to have self-respect as well as respect for others. So self-respect is one of those things you can't give to others unless you have it for yourself. It's like money. I can't give money if I don't have it. It's very simple. So all of these cultural traits, if we were to inculcate in people that we deal with, I think we would make a much better Bharat, India, if you would, and also do much better in science. To give you my own experience, I don't know much science. I have never learned any science. I done some chemistry courses, 101, 102 in IITs and stuff, right? But I never thought that I cannot do science. So if a problem presents itself and I find it interesting, then I would start working on it. And I have never failed in that by doing that. So whether it's a problem or what I call, I'm a chemical engineer. Sometimes people thought I was a material scientist. Sometimes they thought I was a physicist. Sometimes a chemist. Sometimes just an ignorant fool. So in equal measure, all of this is possible. And the whole point is, to look for your happiness and fulfillment in life about doing whichever way that you can do it. Um, and being positive, I think, is very important. And then we stop there. Yes. So, the summary is we have not discussed any science here at all. But we should, I mean, this is not something, anything special. I have told you. They all run-of-the-mill stuff that I'm sure all of us know. Point is, how do we translate that into action in our lives and other people's lives? How do we do it in a little structural way with a framework? Because really there is no framework. I mean, people just, we never discuss these things in a committed way. We never discuss them in a formal, in a framework way, right? How do we create those opportunities for our students, our researchers, and so on? Just to tell you, I mean, INSA is responding to some of these concerns. For example, that there is going to be a women scientist section in INSA because there are right now like 9% women, half of them are over 75. But that's also true of general fellowship of INSA is 73 average age. At the time of election to fellowship is 58 average age. Now we live in a country where most people stop working after 50 because they think they're going to retire at 60, right? And so our professional days of working are very limited. By the time somebody has a good grasp on what he or she doing, it's time to think about retirement and so on. So these are many challenges which are again not challenges of science, but challenges of society in which we work, cultural aspects and so on. So how do we deal with all of that? Of course, INYAS has brought in some this diversity related to age. And age, I always say, look, why do we need a good diversity and balance of age? Because on the whole, you have to balance experiences with energy. Now, I'm not saying that in younger people they lack experience. I'm not saying older people, I'm not saying less young people lack energy. But on the whole, on an average, this is so. And so therefore, and also better connection to what's happening in today's world, maybe younger people have that better and so on. Only yesterday, I put together a young person and a less young person in the same committee. And they're already complaining. They said they fought very bitterly with each other. I have to get to the to the base of it, but I don't know. The less young person was saying, you got to respect seniority. And I think the more young person was saying, you cannot treat me like a lowly, young guy or what, right? Okay. So this becomes a problem. So how to even work with diversity becomes a problem because you would notice that people don't deal with people. They deal with a stereotype. Hey, haven't you noticed that? So they don't expect me to say jokes. They don't certainly not expect me to say dirty jokes. Okay? Why? Because they have a concept, they have a stereotype, they have a picture of who you are dealing with, right? And so that becomes a problem because then you cannot actually do things more effectively, what needs to be done. So therefore, one of the very strong stereotypes is age. Okay, this is very hard to break through that particular stereotype because people think, hey, and generation, there's 2 generations away, this is millennial, this is X, this is Z, or some stuff like that. I have not understood. What is generation Z? 90s? Yeah, whatever. So anyway, the whole point is that people start thinking in terms of this label. And they think that they have understood you totally by knowing the year you were born in. Because it corresponds to this generation or that generation and so on. So that is perfectly okay. I think, sometimes we need that stereotype to be able to function very quickly and get to the heart of it. They say, hey, generally people like that age, they don't believe in this, they don't know about it, whatever, right? So, but by the same time, it becomes counterproductive when we have to work together to find solutions to problems. And so that's what I was referring to, conflict, but intergenerational conflict and intergender conflict and inter-every conflict, which is there. Okay, so let's do some interaction and then I'm carrying some cookies. Whoever is asking good question, get one cookie. Not digital cookies. Or even discussion, not question. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk, which was very broad. You covered pretty much everything we could think about. One of
I not covered promotions. I not covered the next award.
Right. One of the questions I had was you mentioned about very high risk science and leading to high reward. When you propose projects for grants, one of the issues we always run into is this. Because what seems to you extremely high risk might not seem that way to the committee, or they think it is way too high risk, even though it's called high risk. So do you have any pointers about how to approach it and how not to get frustrated when you know your idea can be groundbreaking?
No, it's very simple. Don't get frustrated. There's
Yes.
no how to not get frustrated. This is a totally wrong approach. You either are frustrated or not frustrated. Okay, there is no how to it. Second aspect is okay. So committee may be wrong or you may be wrong. If there is a divergence of opinion between what you think is high risk or what the committee thinks is high risk, one of you may be wrong, which often happens. Okay, so what do? There is nothing to be done. Submit another proposal, right? Or wait for another committee. That's all. Okay, or another agency. Rejecting a proposal is not the end of the world. By the way, it's not so bad in India, but let's say in US, some very competitive, scientifically competitive societies, let's say the rate of success in NSF may be 15%. Okay, but and don't forget, all of those proposals are very much more competitive than the ones that you encounter here. Right. So, in fact, when I was a member of the European Research Commission, they consider only proposals that are risky. They don't even consider routine proposals. Right. So, I say routine proposals can be sent to different countries' boards. Research boards. But the European Research Union's board, they consider they have criteria. They say, look, spell out the risk elements. What is the objective? What are the risk elements? And what is the contingency planning to deal with it? So risk taking there means one is stupid. Okay, there is a difference. So you take a risk which is not a stupid risk. I'm not saying I'm a chemical engineer, but I'll work on grand unification of forces. Okay, that's a stupid risk. Okay, and some people are saying I'm proving Newton wrong or something. Not that. He's saying, look, I understand the area. I understand what is the problem. I understand what the risk elements are. And I also know that, if I'm failing in this particular way, then how would I make progress? What would I abandon? What would I bring more? And what, at least I'll get something out of it. There's no such thing as failure. Right? You will still advance knowledge. You may not exactly get what you're looking for because of these risk elements. But even understanding the risk elements is a progress, right? You have identified what the bottlenecks are. So that kind of proposal requires even more thinking than this kind of proposal that we write, that we know everything. Most papers, in fact, are written before the work have started on it. Okay, so all I know is that here the data will go here, this plot will go here, X increases, Y increases. I know all the conclusions if I have worked in an area for 5 years. So they're like filler material, and we all need it, and our students need it for them to get a position, right? But they're basically like a soap. 80% is called filler material. It's not functional material. Filler material. So all CVs are filled with filler materials, about 80% extent. Whether those papers were ever written or not makes no difference at all. My own life, I have close to 400 publications. Unfortunately, I lost about 8 years working for the government, else I could have done better. But those 400 papers, if I were to be really honest about it, okay, maybe should have been happy writing 100 and let the others go.
Thank you, sir. My name is Santosh. My question is, over the past 35, 40 years being a researcher, what is the biggest challenge that you have come across in science and how did you overcome that? Can you share one of the examples?
No, people will try to pull you down all the time. I mean, they may not wish to do anything themselves, but they don't want you to do anything. Right? That is very clear. And so our challenges are not really challenges of science. Let's try to understand that again. They are not challenges of training or IQ or all of those things, right? They are not those kind of challenges. The challenges are mostly cultural and behavioral. Now, I've seen so many people go totally waste their lives because they are very negative and they just like to drink coffee all day long and gossip. Gossip is so bewitching, isn't it? I mean, you say, look, I'm not, I'm not into work much, but I can get all my Look, let's examine very fundamentals of behavior. What is it? Why is it that we do work in science? What do you think is the reason? Other than earning your salary and livelihood, what is the reason we are doing science? Huh? Self? Yeah. I mean, we want to feel good, right? We want to feel good, but this feeling good is always relative. So I'm saying I got $1 million, but the other, my neighbor got 10 million bucks. And so there is no such thing beyond a certain point about satisfaction. That you say is not absolute, isn't it? So it's not absolute. So, okay, I mean, let's say I got this award, but Ram Gopal Rao got it next year and he is valued more, then I'm not feeling happy about it, right? It's very simple. Look, each one of us can examine this issue. It's not for me to tell, okay? So point is, it's not only science. What anybody does in this world basically has some reason. And that reason is that we need to feel good about ourselves in some way. We need to feel little satisfied, little that we have achieved something, isn't it? And that whichever way we call it, happiness or sense of fulfillment or achievement and so on. That is why we do things. And we have some ego involved in all of that. And mostly, how do I cope with failure? I mean, the point is we got all these aspirations, but how am I going to cope with failure? You can say world is unfair. That's one way to cope with it. You can say, and so on, right? Or you can say, I even know some people quote Bhagavad Gita. They say, look, fruit, I'm only entitled to my actions, but not the fruits of my actions. You have heard that, isn't it? But people don't think that this can be operationalized because their motivation for working has only been fruit. It's not the action, right? So it's not going to happen. So what is going to happen? And now you see there's so much problem going around with mental stress. Every PhD student is saying they're under huge stress. And they are blaming us for that. But I'm blaming them for my mental stress. Right? They're saying, I need a job, I need papers, you do it for me, you tell me what to do and so on. You find money for me and you find a job for me. Anyway, the question was, what is a big challenge in our lives, right? Not only my life, I think your life also. The big challenge is, I never listen to any, so I'm not telling you only challenge, I'm telling you the response to it. I never listen to anybody. Okay, so see, for example, I want to do PhD. I had offers from UPenn and MIT. I went to do PhD at sunny Buffalo. Now, a whole lot of people told me that you are so stupid. You're totally stupid. I said, yes. Okay, but look, this is my decision. And I had a reason for making that decision. It's not stupid. So when people have some expectations of you, you should listen to them, but don't get swayed. Okay, so you're saying you have inputs from many different people about what it is, how you should run your life, but it is your life. So you have to decide how you want to run it. Even though it may look very good on somebody else, that life, it's not going to look good on you. Right? And so, being independent, being your own man, and not listening to what anybody is saying. These are the keys of happiness. In science also. Right? So at the same time, while we're not wanting others to pull you down, don't waste your time pulling others down also. It doesn't pay. Okay. So I think that what is a big challenge? A big challenge is to be able to do what you think you should be doing, right? Not just following somebody else. They got different set of strengths, right? You have different set of happiness, standards of happiness and strength, right? And knowing that fully well, you will not worry about what somebody says. Because see, we worry about these things because we are not convinced. When I'm not convinced, I always think, hey, it's a bad decision. You know, what 10 people are telling me is a bad decision, right? So if you are not yourself convinced, then you will never be happy, doing your actions. So whole point is I may be wrong, okay? But there is no such thing as wrong, okay? As long as it's legal, right? It's a legal bill. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? Yeah. No disruption. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They're going to totally affect. So all our models of doing science and publishing them and so on will become totally meaningless. No, what is how you define intelligence? What? No. Now machine will read it. Yeah, okay. You can read 1 million documents in 2 seconds and do the analysis of that. Yeah. What are you asking? No, what is positive impact on who? On? Let us see, often this confusion comes by not defining the question very properly, right? Now we introduce the concept of intelligence. So what is intelligence? You see, even a rudimentary machine in the 90s had defeated the world chess champion. The new machine, which is based on AI, defeated the old machine. The old machine had the sum total of the chess knowledge of all the grand masters and the games that they played. Sum total of the human knowledge related to chess. The new machine had none of that. The new machine only the rules of the game. In 2 hours, it can beat the old machine, which in turn had beat the world chess champion. So now, how do you define intelligence? That's a chess intelligence. So it's not general intelligence. It's not common sense, right? Which is why the only aspect in which a human mind can be ahead of a machine is common sense. Nothing else. Cannot compete in art, cannot compete in literature, cannot. Oh, other way, I made a poem in the women's thing on women scientists, a poem with ChatGPT. It's perfectly okay, acceptable poem. Nothing wrong with it. You would be able to make, you'll be able to make personalized literature in which you are the hero of the plot, right? And whatever ending you want and whatever characters you want, whatever language and style you want, everything will happen. Okay, so I do not think that any specific task, whether it is called creative, is called cognitive, is called manual, you cannot compete with machine. This is actually both a challenge and opportunity. Most people think it's a challenge only, right? It's a challenge because we have a particular definition of being human. And that the definition of being an effective human is actually same as that of a good machine. Okay, so we have to reinvent ourselves. So once you cannot compete with machine on its own terms, you have to stop defining yourself as a machine. So only the way to compete, if you are not a mathematician, and your next door neighbor is a good mathematician, you should write literature, right? So it is fairly clear, it's very clear, it's 100% guaranteed that humans would have to reinvent themselves in the era of where machines do it better.
Over a tea break, right? So let us thank Professor Sharma for this interesting talk. We can now understand the difference between invention, innovation, right? So I request our chair, Dr. Dhaka, to felicitate Professor Sharma. हाँ थोड़ा जगह छोड़ दीजिए.
We start with something you don't like, and then we end with something you really like. Okay? So we know that you don't like this, but for sustainability, we should have this with like this should be biodegradable, and put some seeds in it, and put it in the soil.
Right.
I already like it. See the genesis of this, no? Everywhere I go, they give you a shawl. I opened a shop. Then I tell people, no. You should not give me shawl. You should give me T-shirt. No, INYAS is logo, but there is something written. Oh, very nice.
Young is an attitude.
And now, you see, for outgoing chairman also, we should get something like this. Is it to remind you're over 40 now?
Now, yeah, thank you so much, sir. So now I request Dr. Brajesh Pandey to come on the stage. Dr. Dhaka, please felicitate Dr. Brajesh Pandey, who is Executive Director, INSA. Thank you so much. I request Dr. Dhaka to felicitate Shri Sunil also, Dukarkar, who is Deputy Executive Director, Finance and Administration, INSA. Thank you so much. Now, felicitation of Dr. Seema, who is Assistant Executive Director, Science and Society, INSA. Thank you so much, everyone. Now it's time to release our publications. I request Dr. Meher to come forward for the publication part in Indian Journal of Pure and Applied Physics. So,
Yeah, so about this publication, I would like to just say a few words that we keep on discussing in INYAS that we should promote Indian journals. And in those lines, INYAS has taken already many initiatives. We have already edited special issues of PINSA in past. This year we collaborated with NISPAR to edit a special issue of Indian Journal of Pure and Applied Physics. And with the help of editor Dr. Meherwan and whole NISPAR team, we could bring out this issue in just couple of months. So earlier people used to complain that it is taking months. Sir, I am also coming. Yes, it was better quality and also in 2 or 3 months. Earlier it was better quality. Or we don't compromise with quality, so all are better quality, but this time the process was faster.
Faster,
as compared to some of the previous ones. What is the best paper here? There are many. There are many. All are good. All are good. There are many. Best is the aluminum paper. Yeah, they're all better. Meher, if you want to say something. Yeah, that's fine. We should thank our all editors, Bhaskaji, Mukesh Kumar, and Dr. Manoj Gupta, who actually coordinated all these editorial activities. And we also thank all the authors who concluded this special issue. This is basically collaboration of INYAS and ISPAR. So we request our viewers also, obviously, and yeah, yeah, viewers also. We are not yet finished thinking. We are so we all should promote our Indian journals. Our CSR journals are platinum operator journals, so we do not charge any fee to authors or the subscribers or the readers. So they are open to all. I mean, this is for knowledge for all, basically. So we should support our journals, Indian journals, I should say. So I would also mention that, yeah, thank you, Meher. I would mention that this journal has impact factor, and this is free of charge, available for everyone. And otherwise, for making our publication open access, we have to pay a lot of money. The best part of this is that it has impact factor and it is free of charge, available to the public, to everyone. So the copyright remains with the authors, the main part is. So we are, remaining our copyrights with India. So we are not actually selling the copyrights of our research to the foreign journals, basically. So it is contribution to India also. So in fact, the reviewers, we should thank more to the reviewers in the sense that we as a author submit paper, but if reviewer will not give the report on time, we could not have, we would not have been able to release today. So though we reminded a couple of times, but our reviewers actually helped us to bring this and release this special issue on this day. So all reviewers are playing a great role in this, and I must also say that though majorly the contribution is from INYAS members, but it was not limited to INYAS members, and there are contribution papers from non-INYAS as well. Though less, but not as good, No, it's good, but it is like INYAS, non-INYAS, all contributions are there. It strikes me, as what Meher was saying, that these are papers for all, knowledge for all, right? Let me read this. High performance, 2-dimensional, 2-layered, copper, dope, molybdenum sulfide, nanosheets, base, flexible, piezoelectric, nanogenerator. That makes sense, right? To all of us? Yes. Now, decide the multi-strut filtering on the density of Li, LAP, CR 1.75, C 0.25, 412, solid state electrolyte. So my point was.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Meher. Thank you, everyone. We have one more publication for release, which is Career Guidance Kit, prepared by INYAS, Dr. Veda and Dr. Rajan. So I request for the release of this publication also. And Dr. Veda, please come on the stage. Yeah. Veda, please tell us about this publication.
I did not say that.
Veda, please say. Yeah.
So it's just a compilation of mostly we do a lot of career talks, and most of the time people ask like, can we get any kind of publication that can help? So this is mainly for those younger lot, those students, mainly 10th and upwards. So most of the opportunities that is available in India, we have tried to compile here. So I can share a soft copy with you all so that you can use these in your outreach activities. I think this is this will be really helping the students out there. So I think INYAS is really proud to come up with publication. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for patient listening. Now I request our Secretary INYAS, Dr. Veda Krishnan, to propose vote of thanks.
Yeah, so as we reach almost the exit part of this program, inaugural program, let me share the words of thanks to all of you. Let me start as I think Professor Sharma mentioned the love triangle. I think the triangle, INYAS, society, and science, I think INSA is completing that triangle. So we are really glad, sir, that you are the chief guest of this inaugural session. It is not only because that you are the guiding light and also, I think, the main cheerleader of INYAS, but more than that, I think you are a non-stereotypic leader that we've seen. I think you all will agree to me on that. And without any second thought, we can approach you for many things. And I think that is a great support to INYAS. And thank you once again for the great lecture and interaction that you gave. When we say that INYAS is the daughter academy of INSA, we try to weave a relation with INSA. And that relationship only happens because of the wonderful cohort that we have, the INSA Council and the INSA Secretariat. So we cannot do anything without them. So I think a deep sense of gratitude. We are really humbled and we really thank the INSA Council, especially the Vice President, Professor Mehra, who actually did a lot of support in our international programs, especially the IAP grant, other vice presidents, and also the INSA Secretariat, already mentioned. So as INYAS only gives legal bills, so thank you, Panditji, for all the support, and also Sunilji and Seema ma'am, and all other INSA staffs. I'm not taking one by one name, but for the, the warmth that they share, I think that is something indispensable, inevitable that we normally see in INSA. Thank you so much. The journey that we've seen till date, that you saw the video, it is something that happened over the time, and it is a contribution of the past chairs, past INSA presidents, INYAS chairs, INYAS CC, and also the whole team of INYAS members. So I think at this moment, we are witnessing this moment only because of them. So let me also put indebted to them for their contributions and what the legacy that they made for over the decade. Thank you, all of them, for this wonderful opportunity that they gave to us. Once again, welcome the new members to this vibrant community, and I hope you will catalyze more and contribute more into INYAS, and welcome, and also thank you for choosing INYAS and to be part of INYAS, and also the current heart of the team, the core committee, and also the one who always fuel us, the wonderful chair, Dr. Rajan. Thank you once again for all the support. As Professor Sharma always mentioned about ChatGPT, so Rajan is the ChatGPT of INYAS, so whenever we have a doubt, we go to him. So thank you once again. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Yeah, thank you, Veda. So with this, we come to the end of session 1. And I thank everyone who is present there and also not is on the way and will reach soon here. So to memorize it and to remember it, please come for a group photograph outside this. And after group photo, we can refresh ourselves with a cup of tea. So everyone invited for the same. Thank you so much.